After Japan surrendered in World War II, Korea was split into two sections, separated by the 38th parallel. The UN, or America, controlled southern Korea and created a democratic society. North Korea was controlled by Russia. However, the Korean people wanted the country to unite, and therefore Northern Korea crossed the 38th parallel and America, as Southern Korea, retaliated. 40,000 US troops invaded Northern Korea, and with them their democratic rule increased. However, China, scared of the influence this would have on their communist country, gathered around 1 million men to drive America out of Northern Korea.
The Civil War began on June 25, 1950. It is considered to be a Cold War. However, from the international side, America and China were using the conflict in Korea to have a hot war. The US went to war with Korea for three reasons. America feared that Japan would turn communists after China. Secondly, was to reduce communists' influence in the world to protect the American way of life. Lastly, Truman, the President of America at the time, realized America was competing in the USSR for global control. Russia went to war as Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, wanted communism to grow. In 1949, Sung persuaded Stalin to support the invasion of South Korea. In 1950, Ri threatened to attack North Korea. This was the trigger of this war, and as a result, the army of North Korea invaded South Korea. Northern Korea was supported by additional communist countries such as the Soviet Union and China, with medical support provided by Czechoslovakia. Southern Korea was backed by the United Nations Peace Force, as well as assistance for the US, England, Australia, and many others. The war lasted until a truce was signed on the 27th of July 1953. Because of this, the Korean Demilitarized Zone was established.
The invasion of South Korea took America by complete surprise. Proof of this is that Dean Rusk, head of the State Department, had told the Congress on June 20th that no war was likely, even though the CIA doubted this prediction. The benefit of the previous war meant the US still had many troops in Japan. This allowed quick yet weak action to be taken. These soldiers were under control of General Douglas MacArthur, who was in charge of the American forces in the Pacific. European and Western powers, including Great Britain, quickly agreed to donate supplies and volunteered soldiers to help the cause. This resulted in the first Korean-American collision of the war on July 5th. The Western powers gained more control after a Security Council was held as the result of the Soviets boycotting the US supplies. The Soviet Union abstained, and therefore the UN voted to aid South Korea. Troops from countries such as Australia, New Zealand, France, Canada, and South Africa combined forces with the US. However, Truman's decision to send in the US Army without referring to the Congress determined harsh criticism over his judgment. It may seem that America was well off, but the US forces were suffering from demobilization, and a large amount of their equipment was found to be useless. Once the war started, battle strategies played a huge role in the participation of either side. North Korea moved south in force, using Soviet equipment provided and used numbers against the Americans with crushing success. As a result of this, South Korea withdrew and were cornered into a small area in the far south called Pusan. Even with additional help from the Soviet Union, the benefits of the Air Force and the defenses of the occupied American land were challenged. Peace talks began between the UN and the Communists in July of 1951. The UN aspired for a quick resolution, however the talks lasted approximately 2 years. The war became second place to the peace talks, so soldiers were dying fighting with no cause. The remainder of the war was spent exchanging lengthy peace negotiations. A ceasefire and a demilitarized zone were established. To this day, almost 50 years later, no peace treaty has been signed. To show the efforts put in for collaboration, the US President Eisenhower traveled to Korea to find out if there was a way to end the conflict.
As you can see on this big world map, Korea is right here. And this tiny little line is called the 38th parallel. North Korea invaded South Korea, and South Korea pushed North Korea to China. China didn't like the influence it would have on their community. So, China built an army of 1 million men and pushed the Americans out of North Korea.